Hello and welcome to part 4 of our Healthy Heart class. In this video segment, I will be speaking about the heart healthy eating patterns, so the portfolio diet, Mediterranean diet, and DASH diet. Those are evidence-based dietary patterns that are shown to help reduce your risk for heart disease and stroke. I'll also be looking at meal planning for heart health. So these are the 3 diets I'm going to highlight about heart healthy eating. They all have common factors. They all emphasize eating lots of whole grains, vegetables, and fruit, lean protein and protein from plant sources, as well as low-fat dairy. Generally, these eating patterns focus on less processed foods as well. However, there are some factors that distinguish them from each other. For example, the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, specifies eating 3 servings of low-fat dairy per day to help with lowering blood pressure. It also focuses on aiming for 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day to help, again, with lowering blood pressure in particular, and has been effective for that reason, or for that outcome. It does, of course, also emphasize soluble fiber, plant-based proteins, and whole grains. The Mediterranean diet is based on minimally processed foods, increased vegetables and fruit, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, to help with many health benefits. It is associated with a lower risk of heart disease, less heart attacks and stroke in people that eat according to a similar pattern to the Mediterranean diet. It's also good for diabetes management, lowering A1C levels in patients that have diabetes. There's also a lot of research coming out that shows it can be beneficial for supporting positive mental health outcomes and reducing risk for Alzheimer's disease. So it's definitely a healthy eating pattern associated with lots of health benefits. In particular, it emphasizes healthy fats, particularly monounsaturated fat in olive oil, using lots of olive oil to have those heart healthy benefits. Fatty fish is emphasized, and legumes as well. So beans, good sources of soluble fiber. Then there's the portfolio diet that emphasizes adding certain amounts of specific foods each day to achieve an LDL cholesterol lowering effect. So although it does emphasize less processed foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains like the other diets, it emphasizes aiming for 45 grams of nuts a day. So that's the equivalent of a small handful or a quarter of a cup. 50 grams of plant-based protein per day, so a quarter of a cup of beans, tofu, soy milk, soy nuts and beans. 20 grams of soluble fiber a day, which would be the equivalent of 2 servings of oatmeal, 2 servings of beans, lentils, or chickpeas a day. Psyllium, husk, oats, oat bran, barley, and ground flaxseed, chia seeds are all sources of soluble fiber, so could be items that you incorporate to try to get that 20 grams a day. It also emphasizes 2 grams of plant sterols a day. To get that amount, you'd have to take a supplement or consume a functional food, which can be quite costly. So not usually my number 1 recommended eating pattern for most patients, but I wanted to just let you know of those heart healthy diets out there. I do emphasize the Mediterranean diet the most in my practice for a variety of health conditions. As I highlighted, it's been extensively researched for having benefits in protecting heart health, and those results have been demonstrated repeatedly. As well, it can be helpful for conditions like type 2 diabetes and its complications, and as I said, other health benefits, or the last slide. So I just wanted to highlight that in a little bit more detail. It's not a diet in the traditional sense of the word, but it's an eating pattern that can fit in your lifestyle and you live it. So this is the pyramid of the Mediterranean diet. You can see the base of the pyramid is focused on being physically active and eating and enjoying meals often with others. A big component of it is your whole grains, lots of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and legumes, garlic, um, tomatoes, all those foods that are often staples in the countries surrounding the Mediterranean Sea, so like Italy and Greece, Spain, Crete, Turkey, Lebanon, North Africa, Israel. Those are all countries around the Mediterranean Sea and um, the basis of this diet. So those plant-based fruits are consumed on a daily basis. It encourages fish and seafood on a weekly basis, as well as poultry, cheese, yogurt, eggs. And then meats, like red meats, high-fat pork, bacon, sausage, steaks, lamb. All of those foods are emphasized on a monthly basis. And then drinking lots of water. Red wine is there as well. Certainly not something I recommend people start drinking if you don't drink alcohol regularly. And if you are concerned about your heart health and alcohol intake, not something that you should focus on drinking more of, but red wine can be incorporated in moderation 3 times a week in small amounts. So I'm talking about like 2 ounces at a serving, which is quite a small amount when you think of the size of some wine glasses. But it has been associated with that traditional diet that's associated with reduced heart health or increased heart health. So this is a handout that I have emailed to you as well. It's a tool that you can use to rate your Mediterranean diet score, just to look at what your current eating patterns are and how closely they match up to the eating pattern emphasized in the traditional Mediterranean eating pattern. So I encourage you to take a moment and fill this out either now or after you've watched the video. And it might identify some places where you could add some foods or add some items into your eating to help increase that score. Evidence shows that if you're able to take where your current eating habits are and just do a couple things, just 2 things to help increase that score by 2 points, that can have an impact on reducing your risk for heart attack and stroke. So no matter where your current eating habits are, you can work towards improving them. Or maybe you're already eating very similarly to this eating pattern and following a very heart healthy diet, in which I encourage you to continue doing so. The evidence shows that is reducing your risk. If you would like to get more information, I would be happy to help you to look at your current eating habits on a one-on-one basis and see if we could maybe brainstorm some ways that you could make some changes if you want to. So email me or call and set up an appointment for some support. You can also look to unlockfood.ca. It's a website that has information about all 3 of the heart healthy eating patterns I highlighted. And oldwayspt.org is a website that emphasizes it's all about traditional diets, so the Mediterranean diet. But if you come from a different background and eating an Italian way is not going to be something that works for you, in your own traditional eating pattern, you can find those traditional foods that will protect your heart health as well. And that website is great for supporting you in that goal. And you may speak with a registered dietitian with myself. So email me or call for an appointment. So I'd love to help you more with these eating patterns. Next, we'll focus on planning meals for heart health. So when it comes to meal planning, I emphasize the plate method, which is based on balance. It's a tool that you can use to help you ensure you're getting the variety of food that your body needs in good proportions to optimize your heart health. You may also find that when you eat meals that follow this method, you have lasting energy and you can feel satisfied for longer until your next meal or snack. It might also help you stay fueled throughout the day instead of just left feeling overly hungry in the evening. So the plate method is a way that you can visualize a balanced plate. Divide your plate into 3 sections. A quarter of that plate is set aside for your protein food, like chicken, turkey, fish, beans, nuts, seeds. And half of your plate is set aside for vegetables. And the last quarter of your plate can be set aside for your grains and starches. So potato, rice, corn, pasta, breads. That fills up that quarter of the plate. On the side of the meal, there's milk and a piece of fruit. This might be a plant-based beverage if you don't tolerate milk or dairy products. So a soy milk in particular is comparable in protein content to milk. This helps you feel more satisfied, adds extra protein to your meal. And the fruit can provide some extra nutrients and fiber. So when it comes to looking at how hungry you are at meals, you may feel like this looks like too much food for you. If that's the case, you could divide that up and maybe instead of doing 3 meals a day, having 6 meals or 3 meals and 3 mini meals, or think of it that way, to help get this variety of food. So you might have your vegetable, grain, and protein at your meal, at your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then maybe a fruit and a milk or some variation of that suits you for a snack to help keep you fueled. Now, a big question when people come to me is how much am I supposed to eat? And how much of what type am I supposed to be eating? This is a tricky question to answer because everyone has different energy needs based on their activity levels, their metabolism, their age, and many of those factors change from day to day. The best tool that you can use to identify if you are eating the right amount of food for your own body is your hunger and fullness. It can be a challenge to trust your body and to learn to listen to your body tell you how much you need to eat. It takes a lot of practice for you to start recognizing those cues if you currently don't recognize them or pay attention to them. But it is possible and really is a helpful tool for you if you're able to work towards that. Unfortunately, many distractions in our world can cause us to lose touch with that hunger and fullness. For example, we have busy schedules. We're working a lot. You might be eating on the go or in front of a computer screen or a TV. And that all prevents us from being able to tune into that hunger and fullness. So to help you learn that skill, I encourage you to start using that plate method along with these following suggestions for portion sizes. So for example, when it comes to vegetables, choose a big handful or 2 fist size together. Double portion of your vegetables can help you with filling up that half a plate of vegetables. Choose about a fist size of rice to fill up that quarter of a plate, or fist size of starch, not just rice. The picture here is rice. When it comes to protein or meat, choose about the palm of your hand and the thickness of your pinky finger. For fruit, choosing a fist size fruit. So that might be half an apple if you've got really large apples, or half a banana. Or maybe it's a smaller fruit, it'd be the full fruit, but roughly a fist size to give you a guide. When it comes to added fats at your meal, try to add about a thumb's worth or a tablespoon of oil or avocado, nuts, seeds, some fat, margarine, butter, etc. Then I encourage you, once you've built that plate using these recommended portion sizes, to bring awareness to your hunger and fullness by practicing rating your hunger. So before you eat, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 means very hungry, 2 ready to eat, 3 is starting to feel full, 4 is full, 5 is absolutely stuffed and uncomfortable. So before you eat, check in and rank your hunger and fullness on that scale. When you're about midway through your meal, pause and reflect again on how you're feeling and rank your hunger or fullness on that scale of 1 to 5. And then when you're done eating your meal, pause and rate your fullness on that same scale. Are you satisfied? Are you overfull? Do you feel like you still need to eat more even though you finished what was on your plate? This can help you explore with curiosity what foods and what balance and variety of foods can help you feel satisfied. You might also start to explore with curiosity times when you may be eating when you're not hungry. Maybe it's out of habit or because you're feeling full, or because you're feeling sad or angry, lonely, tired. You might be eating even though you are feeling full. And if you'd like more help in this area and some support to help you learn the skill, please email me or phone me. I'd love to offer you some assistance and further information. Now, to help you practice and visualize what using the plate method through the day can look like, I'm going to go through a couple of examples. So this is an example of a breakfast. As you can see, the before picture on the left of the screen is breakfast. It's a pretty big breakfast, maybe what you eat on the weekends. In general, a lot of people I talk to don't eat a lot at breakfast or don't eat breakfast at all. So this may be way too much food, or look like way too much food compared to what you currently do. But just thinking of that plate method, you can see there's some eggs and sausage, so a lot of protein. English muffin, it looks like it's a white flour English muffin, and just a little sprig of herb and a garnish, orange slice, and coffee. If you wanted to modify this to fit the plate method, you might consider adding a lot more fruit to fill up half of that plate. Maybe choose half of the English muffin and switch that to a whole wheat English muffin. Smaller portion of eggs. They've removed the extra meat and added a glass of milk to add protein. Maybe if you enjoy a latte or cappuccino, you could mix that milk and coffee together. So this certainly on the right-hand side, the after meal, is an example of how a breakfast could be a balanced plate method meal. On our next slide, we have a lunch, an example of a lunch based on the plate method. So you've got some tuna with some mayo on the side that you can mix in as an added fat, some whole grain Melba toast crackers, and half of a plate of salad of those veggies. On the side, there's a piece of fruit and a glass of milk or maybe a yogurt there. So you've got all those components of the balanced meal in your lunch there. The last meal 3 here is a supper using the plate method. So the protein portion here is half a piece of steak. It looks like it was cut in half. I know oftentimes when you get a big cut of meat at the grocery store, it's probably more than that palm of your hand, and you can maybe take a smaller portion of it, share it with, if you're sharing a meal, or save the second part of that meat for another meal, maybe slice it on a salad for tomorrow's lunch. But choosing that quarter of a plate of protein, you can choose a quarter of a plate of brown rice and then half a plate of those fried vegetables there, or cooked vegetables. And then on the side or at the top, you can see a bowl of strawberries and a glass of milk or maybe a yogurt there as rounding out that meal based on the balance. So these are just some examples, but there certainly can be a lot of variety in the types of food that you use to fill each section. If you start to use the plate method and plan your meals, I encourage you to start using it with foods that you enjoy. So instead of trying to change everything at once, instead of trying to eat a meal like this, if this doesn't look like a meal that you eat, maybe it could be a slice of pizza with some chicken on it or some pepperoni. And that could be your protein and your carbohydrate. Maybe add some extra vegetables to the pizza and add some vegetables on the side of that meal. You can also make sure you're adding something on the side. If you get takeout, for example, maybe you get a McDonald's meal, combo meal, burger and fries and a drink. You can maybe add some vegetables on the side of that meal when you get home. So add some baby carrots and a piece of fruit to help add some vegetables to that meal, or order a salad. Those are all ways that you can still use that method. Maybe you don't eat all the French fries that came in the supersized fries at McDonald's. So certainly you can use that method with whatever foods. All foods can fit in here, but just trying to play around with the balance and the variety. Once you get used to this, maybe you start playing around with adding more whole grains and different protein foods like beans and chicken and tofu, if you're really adventurous. So this slide, I'm going to give you a minute to review. This is a suggested breakfast, and I encourage you to think of some ways that you could make it more balanced and heart healthy, thinking of the stuff we've discussed in this video and the previous videos. So thinking of the plate method, healthy fats, and fiber. So the breakfast here is a cup of Rice Krispies, half a cup of milk, 2% milk, a large coffee with 2 cream and 2 sugar. So you can pause the video here, maybe brainstorm a little bit how you could modify it with what you've learned. I'm going to skip to the next slide now, where I have revised this. This is a suggested idea of how you can make this breakfast more balanced. So 3/4 of a cup instead of 1 cup of a higher fiber cereal like oatmeal or all bran. There's many high fiber cereals out there. Those are a couple examples. 1 cup of 1% milk. So increase the amount of milk and change the fat percent. So instead of 2%, switched it to a 1%. That'll be a bit lower in saturated fat. Increasing the amount of blueberries to 1 cup of blueberries. Now there's still a little bit of protein missing in this meal, so adding a 1/4 cup of sliced almonds adds some healthy fats and some extra protein to this meal. That'll help that be a little bit more filling and help get those unsaturated fats to help lower your LDL cholesterol in there. And then instead of cream and sugar in the coffee, maybe trying the coffee black or with milk. There's lots of ways you can work on modifying your coffee to a way that you like it and can be maybe a bit more heart friendly. So at this time, I'm going to take an opportunity again to invite you to reflect on what you've learned in this video and on your own personal habits, and think about maybe there's something you'd like to add or change in your habits to protect your heart health. If there's a habit you want to work towards adding, I encourage you to set a SMART goal around it. To remind you, a SMART goal is one that is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and has a time frame. So an example of a SMART goal could be that I am going to start using the plate method to balance a breakfast every day. Whether or not that's realistic for you or something that you're interested in, this is just an example. So maybe you currently have a bowl of cereal and get on your way. And a way to have a balanced breakfast could be to add some nuts to it, like our example. Maybe add some ground flaxseed to it for added fiber. Choose a high fiber cereal. So I will add some fruit to that meal as well. Maybe slice up some banana on it and make sure that that protein is there by adding a cup of milk to my coffee. I'll make a latte in the morning. That would then be a balanced breakfast. So I'll try doing that for the next week and see how I feel. Then in 2 weeks, reflect on that goal. Ask a friend or family member to check in with you to see if you were able to implement that goal. If it didn't go well, try to troubleshoot it. Think of what went well, what didn't go well. Modify that goal. If it did go well, pat yourself on the back and think about whether there's anything else you might want to add and work towards. Please remember that small steps can make a big change. So there's no such thing as a change that's too small. encourage you to set small, realistic goals that you can meet so that you can get more of those pats on your back and continue to be motivated to take steps towards improving your health. So to summarize, as this is the last video in our class, I wanted to go back to the very beginning to include even Jenny's video key points. So aim to have your labs checked every 3 to 6 months to monitor those cholesterol levels. You're now at a baseline level. You've learned before getting referred here that maybe your cholesterol is a little high or your blood pressure is a little high. So after making some changes or thinking about it, just keep monitoring that to see how things are going. And you can collaborate with your heart healthy nurse and with your doctor planning a follow-up plan that works best for you. Take your medications as prescribed, if some were prescribed. You can meet with your heart healthy nurse to monitor blood pressure. This will be something that she'll be able to offer again after the COVID-19 pandemic is over and we're able to meet in person again. Aim to increase your physical activity to protect your heart, limiting alcohol consumption, decrease your salt intake, and aim to follow a healthy, balanced diet that's focused on variety. A lot of focus on plant-based foods, whole grains, lean proteins, fatty fish, fruits and vegetables are good foods to incorporate to protect your heart. And speak with a registered dietitian to help you figure out what might work best for you. So I thank you very much for listening to our videos. We hope this has been helpful, and we hope you can give us some feedback. I have emailed an evaluation form for you to complete, and we ask that you do email that back to myself at k2e@sfht.onca. And you can please let us know your questions or comments by phone or email. You can email myself or Jenny at the email listed on this slide, or call the Stratford Family Health Team at 519-273-7017 to schedule a phone consult with either of us. I thank you. I hope that you have a good day and hope that you can stay safe and stay well.